So once upon a time in our history, things didn't seem so good. People were really concerned, and we made it through it. So before I introduce our capstone guest, kind of like a little, I don't know, something to just make you, did you say something? No? Something to just make you feel good for the rest of the night. I'm going to proselytize a little bit. I'm not the greatest salesperson, but when I believe in something, it comes a little easier. Stacy and I did this for ourselves. We knew that we needed an ongoing community that we could process our feelings, our fears, our need for social action, our need for community, and many people asked us to do this. So over the course of the last 72 hours, we gave our heart and soul, but it came back to us in spades. So my ask of you is that you please let your friends, your neighbors, your family members, whoever you know that is feeling despair, feeling like they need a place to just be with like-minded individuals. If you have a cause that needs a portal for action and you need to get in front of people to help, either you need money, you need volunteers, whatever, that's what this organization is about. Consider us like a very strange church. We're going to meet regularly, and we're going to be there for one another, and somehow, some way, we are going to get through the next flippin' administration, and we're going to do it together. Or it's going to kill me in the process. But someone who's been an inspiration to me through his music, when I first met his wife, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Stills. It's pretty remarkable. So, Stephen is an American musician. Sorry, I'm having issues. Okay, sorry. Maybe the gentleman in the front row, I'm blasting his eardrums out. Stephen is an American musician and multi-instrumentalist, best known for his work with Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills, Nash Young. Beginning his professional career with Buffalo Springfield, he composed their hit, For What It's Worth. Wow, how does that song feel now? Which became one of the most recognizable songs of the decade. After Buffalo Springfield broke up, Stephen began working with David Crosby and Graham Nash on their debut album. Stephen, in addition to writing much of the album, played bass, guitar, and keyboards on most of the album. The album sold over 4 million copies, and at that point, had outsold anything from the three members' prior bands, the Byrds, Buffalo Springfield, and the Hollies. The album won the trio a Grammy Award for Best New Artist. How cool is that? Remember being a Best New Artist, Stephen? Neil Young, formerly of Buffalo Springfield, joined Crosby, Stills, and Nash months later for their second concert at Woodstock and subsequent album Deja Vu. The album found Stills again as a leader of the group. Living up to his nickname, Captain of Many Hands, and Kristen will have to talk about that later, he played bass, guitar, and keyboard on the title track, and electric guitar and piano on Helpless. Stephen's first solo album went gold and is the only album to feature, this is freaking cool, the only album to feature both Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. Cool. Its hit single, Love the One You're With, became its biggest solo hit. Stephen has been ranked number 28 in Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. He became the first person, this is also really cool, he became the first person to be inducted twice on the same night into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for his work with both Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Buffalo Springfield. I've heard Stephen say that they just didn't want to have to deal with him for more than one night. I don't buy that. According to Neil Young, quote, Stephen is a genius. According to me, Stephen and his wife Kristen are simply lovely people who walk the walk. And I thank them from the very bottom of my heart for gracing us with your gift this evening. It means the world. So on that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Stills.
Not exactly sure how to respond to that introduction, because you'll notice I don't have a guitar. And the reason for that is that we're here for another purpose that happens to include one of my other, I don't know, callings, if you will, vocation. I'm a child of the Southeast. I grew up and had my formative years inside the Civil Rights Movement. I remember this feeling. I remember being 18 years old, 17 years old, and having my first political hero murdered on national television. I remember trying to go to Selma, Alabama to march in a little Volkswagen Lynx and being pulled over by an Alabama state trooper who told me in no uncertain terms, turn my ass around and get back to Florida. So I recognize this feeling that we're going through. I've been driving across this country for 4 decades in a tour bus, and we have truck stops that we stop at. And it wasn't too long ago, well, they quit being so friendly at the diner. And it was about the time we elected that black fella president of the United States, who happens to be my favorite of my entire lifetime. So, Doctor, I know exactly what you're talking about when you're trying to address the trauma issue, because it was a traumatizing time. And 4 months after Jack Kennedy was killed, the Beatles came along. And they were instant therapy, but they were also to the gateway into some pretty wasted times. But it was therapeutic. It got us through that. And then they did another one, and they did another one. So, for my generation, the dreaded, hated boomers, they murdered all of our political leaders before we ever turned 30. So this is not an unfamiliar feeling. What's unfamiliar about it, though, is that we're actually facing it head on. And it's like, how do we process this? I'm here because I'm your neighbor. Tree people looms large in my legend. And I just want to reassure you that we're all in this together and give you a couple of clues as to what you might do once you've gotten through the stages of processing the raw emotions of this bitter defeat. In 1970, after I returned from Europe, or back to 1972, I went to the Democratic National Committee and I looked up the youth director and I said, I want to help. And I've got a little dough to spread around, and let's go find, it was a midterm election, let's go find some midterm election congressional candidates, the ones that are in trouble, and see if we can't tip the balance of the scales inside the House. Well, that's exactly what we did, and within 2 elections we had turned Nixon's Republican House into Tip O'Neill's Congress. So I've got 45 years of this, and probably, I don't know, 10, sometimes 4 or 5, sometimes 10 elections every cycle. Midterms are my favorites because the big hot spotlights aren't on you, and you can go out and actually talk to people. In the communities, little groups about like this, at somebody's house, and they've got their guy, and you've looked up their guy, and you've looked at his record, and you've decided if he's worth your time, and you go and you visit, and you find out he's a great guy. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I've done a lot of winning, a lot of losing. A couple of guys I really, really wanted to get in, and we missed just by that much. What I'm getting at is that we have 18 months before the news cycle will turn to the fact that we are on the doorstep of another midterm election. All we need is 8 senators. And we will hand Chuck Schumer the Senate of the United States, and we can do right back at them what they've been doing to Barack Obama. And it's not impossible to conceive that Donald Trump could be such a disaster as to put the House up for grabs. Yeah. But I'm telling you, the Duck Dynasty, frustrated frat boy, and out-of-work white guy that formed their coalition that just beat the dog shit out of us has been growing for the last 8 years. And I saw it out there on the Proud Highway out of that tour bus. And I've been worried about this all year. But we can turn this around. And what y'all do is you get on the internet and you look at other states and you find somebody that you like. You've got a friend that lives in Nebraska. Do your homework, and about a year from now, go to Nebraska and go to the campaign headquarters and say, what can I do to help? What wisdom can I bring from how successful we've been in California at this, of turning our state around from the red state that it was when I got here in the early 60s to the blue state that we have now, this enlightenment, this beacon of enlightenment, I mean, you couldn't pull this stuff off when I was a kid about, actually reforming, facing the drought and figuring out what to do about it and getting specific about what a tree actually does. I've been to the bottom of Franklin Canyon right after a rain, and it's like walking into an oxygen tent. But we have done that. People, secular people, just trying to do their best to help. So, as you grieve this devastating loss and observe the mysterious oncoming, whatever form of psychosis this is, I don't know. I haven't got a read on the man. He sits and he talks in a very calm voice. And then 4 hours later, at 3 o'clock in the morning, he's in his bathrobe, tweeting about how all the demonstrators that are objecting to his election are being paid. I'm sorry, it's like, what universe is this? So, as we navigate the outer reaches of the planet Xenon, I want everybody to know that they're only helpless if you don't keep moving.
Right. Yeah.
If you quit talking to each other. I don't see any black people in this room. Why?
There's one right here.
I mean, y'all were my first big political fight, I said, why can't I go hang out with them? And I have made my living imitating your culture, rhythm and blues, and it's just my favorite thing. The wisest people I knew when I was growing up were all the people that were working for my father, building subdivisions, and I'd go have lunch with them, and they'd share the wisdom of generations of all of their antepasados. A man that played stride piano that couldn't be the manager because he was black, but he was the smartest guy there, but we had this cracker that we had to appoint over him just so everybody felt good. But Charlie Harris ran that place, let me tell you what. So, I want us to know that we're still on the same path, and there's still hope, and there is still, we can survive this guy. We survived Richard Nixon, we survived the bad years of Lyndon Johnson, and we survived World War II, and we can survive this if we'll just keep our heads on straight and go to work and not get passively lost in our bubble that Wendy was talking about. And the last thing I want to mention is that beautiful eye that you drew right in front of me. This young lady sat and drew a beautiful lady's eye with a little tear coming out of it, and I want it to come to life right in front of me. And that is why we have to go on.
Yeah.
Thank you.